I'll do it even more right now with our next guest, friend and teammate of Lyndon Byers, Ray Bourque. Hey, Ray.
Hey, man, how are you?
How you
I know
doing?
it's a little sad day today, but
Yeah, it is.
I'm okay. I'm okay, but we lost one of a kind, and
Yeah.
I think I agree with you. And it's a sad day, but celebrate the amazing things that LB was all about. And he, when I say one of a kind, I mean that. I haven't met too many people that was like LB on and off the ice.
Yeah. Well, he was the same person. Wiggy brought this up earlier. The same person that you saw who was playing for the Bruins or was on the radio. He was the exact same person every day in life when you hung out with him. I mean, he was all in. He had no off switch, Ray. No off switch.
No. He's one of these guys. It's like, be ready for what comes back if you're going to ask him a question, because he's going to be real. And that's what LB was all about. And so much fun to be around. He just loved people. He just wanted to be loved and make people feel special, and he certainly did that. A great teammate, kept things really loose, on the road, in the dressing room. And I really think that LB doesn't get enough credit for the player he was. He's looked at as a guy that, when you say a goon or an enforcer or something like that, LB was a lot more than just that. I mean, when LB showed up in Boston, he was a second-round pick. That was a really good draft for us in '82, and LB was part of that. And in the juniors, LB was a guy that would score, set up plays, and if needed, would fight. And that's how he kind of came into the Bruins. And then, as you come in as a junior player, you got to kind of feel your way in how can you stick. And all of a sudden LB was, having a decent camp, went to the minors a little bit, but all of a sudden, he dropped the mitts, and man, it was like, wow, this guy is really, really tough. And he kind of found his way that way, but, LB, you could play LB and not have to worry about, him being on the ice for whatever amount of minutes he would play. And I just remember a big play that he made in the '87 against Montreal when we finally were able to beat Montreal and go on to our first finals. He was playing shorthanded with Rick Middleton, set Ricky up for an amazing big shorthanded goal that really helped us propel ourselves to get through Montreal.
And I think, Ray, you can speak better to this than any of us, but this fan base has as much, or at least it did when it was a part of the game, which it really isn't, unfortunately, anymore, but has as much respect for somebody who drops the mitts, as you just said, as a goal scorer, as a skill player.
Well, the big bad Bruins, and it's always like even the Bruins now. With some of the signings that they made and all that stuff, they want to find that grit again. Something that they kind of lost, maybe a touch, and part of the Bruins always have to have that piece, that element to their team, because that's the history of the Bruins over, decades and decades and over a century now, that, the Bruins are looked at as a team that's going to be tough to play against. And back in, the 70s and 80s, that you saw a lot more of it. The rules have changed and all that stuff, but it's still an element of the game that is still in the game, and the only sport that, you're allowed to fight. And now it's, the fights are a lot less, but still, when something happens out there and there's a reaction, and the fights are not staged or nothing, it's a reaction of frustration or having your teammates back. And back then, that happened a lot more often than it does now. But still, it's an element that LB brought, and the Bruins fan they just love. And we had a tough team. You're talking LB, Jay, Cam, Gordy, Swoop. We had a handful of guys that was ready to take care of any kind of business that was going to happen that way. And when I broke in, you know, I had Terry O'Reilly, John Wensick, Al Secord, Stan Jonathan. It was, you know, it's always been an element that's been there. That's been a lot that the fans just love and always enjoy to kind of watch.
Well, that's what allowed you to play as a skill player, really, Ray, because they would do the fighting for you.
Yeah, well, I'm still 20-0. I still say I'm 20-0, but I didn't have to fight the guys that LB did. But no, it's he is an amazing guy, and you know what? Like, I just remember after his career, and then you know he teams up with you, and you know he had an amazing following when he played. But what happened once he joined you on radio, and just the cult of people that just loved him, and some of the things that he would put himself out there for. It's just a character that will be missed. You know, we all know LB had his issues, and he had to deal with a lot of stuff there health wise.
Yeah.
But just a guy that was such a big heart and was ready to help anybody anytime. And then, you know, he was a big, I mean, being a Bruin and then having Don Cherry as a former coach that he never played for, but always really liked. And then LB, you know, kind of picks up on Grapes' attire and the outfits that he would wear sometimes and the clothes and just, it was just an amazing character that will be missed.
Right. You know, there's always the guys that wear the A and the C on their jerseys, but there's those guys that are like the heartbeat of the team that might not have that C or A on the jersey, but their leadership just hits in other ways. It seemed like LB was that type of guy.
He certainly was. You know, your captain or assistant or whatever that, it's just not one or two guys that is part of the leadership group. And, you know, and LB was certainly one that was always, you could go to him or, you know, he was just a guy that kept, kind of a glue guy that kept things together, you know. And when I said earlier that, you know, he kept things loose all the time and making it fun, you got to have those guys because, you know, God knows the game could be stressful at times when, you know, maybe things aren't going as well as you'd like as a team or whatever. And those guys are key all the time. So he was certainly one of those.
Well, we've talked about it a lot this morning, but he would also do anything for anybody. And when it came to charities in this region, he would show up. All you had to do was ask, and he would show up, and he would go to anything and support anybody. And so we want to do the same thing for his wife, Annie, and for his son, Will. And so we launched a fundraiser this morning, and the Bruins Foundation is matching your donations up to $25,000 for Annie and for Will. And Ray, I know you want to make a donation as well this morning.
Yeah, the Bourque Family Foundation would love to support Annie and Will and LB's family, and we're going to make a donation of $10,000 on behalf of the Bourque Family Foundation. Wow. So I encourage everybody, if you're a big LB fan and Will's got a little ways to go, he's a young boy, and we'd love to support them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think that you know, when it comes to what he did for others, it's our opportunity to do it for his family and for, as you said, Will has a ways to go and college eventually and all that stuff. So, Ray, I really appreciate you taking the time to check in this morning and to share some of your thoughts on LB, on Lyndon Byers. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I know you guys were tight, and it's a great. Really appreciate you coming out and kind of honoring and remembering LB. I know you guys were tight, and a special friendship, just like an amazing teammate. So good work.
All right.
Thank you.
Ray Bourque, thank you. All right, that is Ray Bourque. You could go to thegreghillfoundation.org and go to beneficiaries and make a donation if you want to help Annie and Will. And we will be right back.